Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bay Area Content Marketing Meetup. Today, we are talking influencer marketing. We have Ashley Zeckman with us. Ashley is co-CEO of Onalytica, and Onalytica has published a report titled the 2024 B2B Influencer Marketing Report. Ashley's going to cover some of the findings of that report. She'll dive into the latest trends, strategies, and tactics that are reshaping the B2B marketing landscape. You'll discover how leading brands are harnessing the power of influencer partnerships to boost brand awareness, build trust, and drive demand. You'll also learn the most effective content types, platforms, and metrics that are making waves in the industry. Ashley, thanks for joining, and take it away.
Thank you so much for having me, Dennis. And this is actually the first talk that I've done on our new report. So I'm really excited to dig into the data, get any feedback from all of you, answer any questions. I think we're going to reserve a bit of time at the end for questions if you have them, but I also have a few prompts in the presentation. So just to kind of get you guys thinking about how you might incorporate influencers into your mix if you aren't already, and just start engaging with each other and kind of seeing what others are doing as well. So give me just 1 second here. We'll see if I can do this right. Oops. Technology. Okay. Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, perfect. So as Dennis mentioned, we're going to talk about top trends and insights from our new report that we created that we just launched in May. In terms of a little bit about me, sorry, my clicker is not clicking. Co-CEO of Onalytica, as Dennis mentioned, I have about 9 years B2B specific influencer marketing experience. I'm a crazy millennial dog mom. If you follow me on Instagram, you will see pictures of the food I make and tons of photos of my dog, and that's about it. And then I also lead a team that builds winning influencer marketing strategies for some of the top brands in the world. Our focus is mainly on B2B enterprise tech, but we do work with agencies and some smaller organizations as well. As we look at B2B specifically, things are really tough out there. We know it takes 10 plus pieces of content before the average buyer is ready to make any sort of decision. 68% say that trust in a brand influences purchasing. However, less than 50% of US consumers trust brands, right? So we know that trust in marketing is at an all-time low. And then pandemic hits, 2023 hits, and then 2024 has been really, really tough. And I know those of you like Tom who work in tech, you've seen this happen, right? We thought we were kind of through the mess of it, but 2024 has presented a new set of challenges as well, right? And that means not only did we have to change our approach in response to the pandemic, but then we had budget cuts. We had customers looking for partnering with values-led companies that aligned with them, personalization requirements, invasive tactic exasperation, and then of course AI, right? Which has made everything get turned upside down for B2B marketers in any industry, basically. So just to give you a quick sneak peek at what 2024 holds for B2B influencer marketing, our report found that 75% of customers listed increasing their brand awareness as their top marketing challenge. In 2023, we did run this survey, just so you know, at the end of December, beginning January. So we did want to do a retrospective on what the challenges were for the previous 12 months. 93% of them also rated their B2B influencer marketing as effective or highly effective in achieving their business goals. So I think it's important to note not just marketing KPIs, but their actual business goals. And then 50% said that they plan to invest more or significantly more in B2B marketing in 2024. So what I want to go through today are 5 key takeaways from the report. Dig in, give examples at the end. I have a few case studies as well to make this all very real for everybody. Feel free to drop anything in the chat as it comes up. We'll try and answer it at the end because we should have time set aside for that. But first, I just want to encourage everyone to engage in the chat, ask questions, and challenge ideas. So if there's something that you have a different experience with or you want to question, I 100% welcome that. That's how we all learn, is by questioning and debating. So encourage any and all feedback as well from everyone who's attending. So our first one is B2B marketing hurdles, right? So what are the top issues that B2B marketers are facing today? And again, this is something I'd love everyone to put in the chat and just kind of start talking amongst yourselves. What have been the biggest marketing hurdles in the past 12 months for you as a marketer, right? For you or for your company, whether you're a solopreneur or work for an agency or a large organization, what things have been the most difficult for you? And feel free to put those in. I'll keep going though. So insider view. So again, like I mentioned previously, the general hurdles for B2B marketers specifically in the past 12 months. Interestingly, knowing the pressure that we've all been facing for lead generation in the past 2 years, increasing brand awareness was the top hurdle, followed by delivering impact with reduced budget and improving brand trust and credibility. So those were the top 3 ranked, followed by ROI, driving ROI, scaling, and production. Interestingly, effective use of AI only ranked at about 13%. So again, this was in January of this year. So things may have not taken off as much at that point as they have now, but just interesting perspective on what marketers are still challenged with. So how do we overcome these things, right? Our brand awareness, reduce budgets, trust, credibility, all those things that we've been talking about. So this is the way that we like to look at it in terms of why you might incorporate influencers into the content that you're creating. So you can increase awareness up to and engagement up to 30 times, sometimes even much more than that, depending on what numbers you're starting out with. It also can have a significant impact on demand gen, right? That requires, of course, that you're working with the right influencers to deliver the right strategies and the right tactics, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But it can increase demand. You can increase the quality of content and the quantity of content that you're creating. It can also be an incredibly cost-effective way to scale content. So instead of needing to hire, a staff of 5 or 6 people to create this content on an ongoing basis, if you go about it the right way, you can partner with influencers who have extensive reach to co-create content on a bit of a lower cost base. And then obviously that trust and brand credibility is built with influencers because these are people that are experts in the industry that your audience knows, trusts, and their association with your brand therefore builds your trust with them, or their trust with you, sorry. So that's the first one, is what are the challenges, what are the hurdles? The second one is on strategic alignment. So for those of you that are implementing influencer marketing, would be interested to know what's been your biggest challenge with aligning the brand strategy with influencer goals. How do you find that balance between what you want to achieve as a business and what influencers that you're partnering with are looking to get out of it? So, according to our report, the top channels in terms of prioritization from both brands and influencers, you'll see brands is blue, influencers are purple. By and large, for both, LinkedIn was the #1 prioritized channel for both groups. For influencers, I think it was just 1 point below brands in terms of importance. Also came in very close on #2, which is co-creating content on the brand's website. So if you are Samsung and you're partnering with influencers, having that content actually live on the Samsung domain versus social channels specifically. And then Instagram and YouTube were the tied for 3rd place in terms of which ones both brands and influencers are prioritizing. So you can see that there's a lot of alignment between where most B2B brands and most B2B influencers are looking to create and publish the content. Interestingly, or maybe not so interestingly or surprisingly, Twitter has dropped to #5 priority for both brands and influencers. I think if you asked us 2 years ago, it would probably be #1 because we still hadn't figured out LinkedIn yet. And then the biggest discrepancy in prioritization that's also in the report is brands are a bit more focused on Reddit as a channel, whereas influencers are a bit more focused on Threads, right? So it's an emerging platform. I think a lot of influencers are testing it, but brands aren't quite ready to make that leap into a new platform. Although surprisingly, TikTok ranked higher than either of those on the list for B2B specifically. So knowing that LinkedIn is our top channel that both brands and influencers are prioritizing, how do we win with influencer marketing on LinkedIn? How do we do it better? First thing is choosing the right influencers. So identifying those influencers who align with brand values, have that engaged audience that's relevant to your industry. Also those that have strong expertise to ensure that authenticity and credibility. The second is to create valuable content on LinkedIn. So collaborate with the influencers to produce high quality, informative content that provides value. That means not just having them do product ads on LinkedIn. That's not what people are looking for. They're looking for informative content that adds value. And then testing various content formats like articles, videos, lives, infographics to keep that content engaging and interesting for your audience. One of the other things that I think we sometimes forget about social channels like LinkedIn is that we have to play well with their algorithm as well. So creating content that keeps users in platform, which is something that LinkedIn is favoring, at least right now. Long form video in LinkedIn, long form content, video, and then things that don't link off to other sites. There are obviously some ways around that in terms of, do you add the link to the comments? Do you add it after the fact? But just kind of keeping in mind that people want to consume content in platform with the influencers, and then tagging the appropriate influencers and content created in order to increase visibility. And then we have, engaging consistently. So not just having this be sort of a one-time collaboration with the influencers, but regularly interacting with them, liking their posts, commenting, sharing their content, encouraging them to do the same with your brand content to increase that visibility, engagement. And that is all about forming that long-term relationship with them. And then obviously measuring and optimizing the performance of what you're doing. So tracking your KPIs such as engagement rates, follower growth, content reach, and then using analytics to gain insights and adjust how you're doing what you're doing. So the second most prioritized was website content. So a few things to think about here. And when I'm saying owned content, I'm saying content that lives on the brand website, but is done in collaboration with influencers. One of the major benefits is enhanced data collection. So tracking and measuring everything is critical to proving ROI with influencer marketing, as it is with any other tactic. An example of that might be creating tracked URLs for the influencers to use anytime they share, so that you can get actual attribution to which influencers drove the most traffic or led to the most conversions on your website. And by housing that content on your website, you get far more data and more complex data than you would if you were publishing on social channels alone. The next one is obviously increased website traffic. So driving audiences to your own platforms is incredibly important. That's how you capture them. That's how you get them to dig deeper into your website. And then capturing new audiences as well. So seeing what net new visitors you can drive by partnering with those influencers, giving them those tracked codes that I mentioned, so that you can actually see, Andy Crestodina, example influencer, drove 100 net new people to our website that had either not been there before or had not been there for the last 90 days, right? So being able to really understand who is capturing the audience that's interested in what you do. And then the last piece is around integrated marketing efforts. So finding ways to add influencers to existing marketing campaigns versus trying to do standalone things that may not have buy-in from your team, that may not be proven. Instead, finding ways to, let's say you have an original piece of research or a white paper coming out or blog content. Those are great ways to incorporate influencers into what you're already executing and doing. The third one is content trends. So curious to know, and this isn't an influencer specific question, but which content formats do you find that your audience engages with the most? Is it video? Is it blog posts? Is it social content? Kind of where are you finding that they are really engaging with your content? And I'd love to see as many answers as possible in the chat. And I see we've got 13 since I last looked, which is great. Okay, so an insider view on 2024 content tactic priorities. So again, brands are blue, influencers are purple. Brands are really prioritizing social content, interestingly. Influencers are as well, but not at the same level that brands are. Events are, again, it's almost like we flipped these two. So what brands are prioritizing the most, influencers are not, and vice versa. And to be completely honest, brands are prioritizing that social and then followed by video content, and influencers are prioritizing speaking at in-person events and co-creating content on brand channels. And to be completely honest with you, that's likely because speaking at events really helps influencers build their profiles much faster at a larger capacity. And they can also charge quite a bit more for these types of engagements versus other ones. So again, we looked at a variety of different content types, but these were the two that I think were most interesting in terms of where prioritization lies. So then the next piece we want to talk through is influencer fee insights. And this is something that has been such a tough question, especially in B2B. B2C has really kind of figured out their formula for how much influencers charge to collaborate with brands, but B2B is still really struggling. So one of the questions that we asked, it was actually probably our longest question, was for these 21 different tactics, how much would you charge for this sort of engagement with a brand? We also asked them how long they've been acting as an industry expert or influencer and what their average social network size was, so that we could figure out a way to kind of tier out these responses as well. So again, for those of you that are executing influencer marketing, I'm curious to know what sort of activities or content types do you allocate the most budget to for this, and why? Why do you choose those different tactics? Is that they're driving the most ROI? Is it that they're emerging tactics and you want to test them? Would definitely be curious to know what they are and why you chose them. So if we look at the content prioritization, or in terms of what influencers are charging for different types of content. So again, this is over 20 different content types. And these numbers are an average between tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 influencers. Each tier will have their own kind of average pricing, but we wanted to give a baseline. So for in-person events, again, influencers are going to charge $17K plus for speaking at events. What they might charge for doing event coverage would be less than that. But if you want an influencer to come speak at a flagship event that you have, come co-present, be on a panel, you're looking at, if you want a more well-known influencer, probably around $17,000 for that collaboration. If you're looking to engage a web influencer to host a webinar, author an ebook or a white paper where they're doing the heavy lifting of that and the vast majority of the work, not the design probably, but the most of the content, you're going to be looking at around 10K plus. And then long form video, 8K. So you'll notice that influencers are starting to charge a lot more for video content, just because it takes so much to script, to be animated, to be convincing. I think, there's a few people in B2B that are really great at this. Ann Hanley is one of them. Drew Davis. They are people that really understand the craft of creating this engaging video content and do a really great job, which means that they can secure these higher rates for creating it, because it really engages the audience and inspires action. Then we have a live stream, if you want them as a live stream panelist. So let's say you're doing a LinkedIn Live, having them attend, participate in that, maybe with 1 or 2 other people. That's going to look at around 5K. And then interestingly, again, that probably takes an hour and a half of their time total between prep and delivery. But again, it's video, so it's more high value, versus a blog or article creation and social promotion. Those both ranked at around 3K a piece that influencers are charging for those types of activities. So what we did find is that there's obviously a premium on personal interaction. So things that require a person to interact or require significant preparation, such as in-person workshops, detailed content creation, those are going to run at a premium. There does seem to be some uniformity in video pricing. So especially long form commands high fees, which again reflects its importance and effectiveness in marketing currently. And then a divergence in social media content costs. So there is a discrepancy, I'd say, in costs between content produced for influencer channels versus brand channels, which kind of underscores kind of where influencers are becoming a bit more particular about who and how they're going to partner. So for example, an influencer will likely charge you a lot more for them to publish on their LinkedIn, right? Because a lot of influencers now, again, knowing that this is a priority channel, are holding those LinkedIn connections, those LinkedIn followers a bit more sacred. So they're charging you a lot more if you want them to speak about your brand on their social channels versus if you are collaborating with them and your brand publishes that content on your channels. Kind of what we're getting at there. There is a way, however, to create a more scalable model, and that's by bundling activities. So this, of course, requires that you have a fairly well-funded program that is looking at some longevity versus a pilot, which we see a lot of customers come in and they want to do a pilot first, which is fine. But if you're looking to create kind of those economies of scale, it's really important to think about the long term. So that means bundling activities together. So let's say we wanted to work with Anne, Theodora Lau, and Katie Martell. Instead of having them do these one-off different pieces, figure out what are maybe the 3 or 4 different things throughout the year that you'd like to do with them, and bundle those things together in terms of what you ask. So brands love it because you get a lot more for your money. Often the influencers will discount prices to get more work out of it. And the influencers love it because it shows the investment in a long-term relationship with them. So the 5th and final takeaway is metrics and measuring success. So out of curiosity, would love to know which metrics are crucial for measuring your influencer marketing success, or even just your B2B marketing success in general, right? What are the things that you are looking at to measure impact within the business? So in terms of the results from our survey of customers, we found that 95% of customers were measuring awareness metrics. And by the way, we did let them select multiple different options. So you'll notice these don't all add up to 100%, obviously, but by and large, most of them are measuring awareness. 88% are measuring engagement, and only 44% are measuring conversion or bottom of funnel metrics. So one thing I would say with influencer marketing, as with any other B2B marketing tactic, the objectives of your program should always guide the deliverables, the influencer types, the KPIs you're measuring, and we should be very intentional with what we want to achieve and let that guide our approach, right? So instead of saying, we want to do this ebook because someone had this great idea on the content team and we think we need to create this, start with what it is that you need to measure, what impact you need to have for the business, and then kind of build out what your strategy should be. There's a very simple way to look at this, I guess. So the first thing is to identify your desired outcome. So let's say you want to increase your website traffic, you want to grow your follower base on social, and maybe you want to integrate some SME and execs alongside the influencers. A lot of corporate comms people are definitely responsible for a kind of a mixture of these things, helping to build profiles for internal executives within the organization. So let's say those are 3 objectives. That's probably going to be more of an awareness or thought leadership program, plus the SMEs and execs, right? Whereas if your goals are to drive downloads, drive leads, and maybe kind of improve the depth of that content and the quality of it, you're more likely going to be looking at a demand gen or lead gen type program. So what does that look like in terms of practical execution? So for the awareness and thought leadership programs specific to influencer marketing, you might be looking at more top of funnel content like blog posts, social content, events, social video, LinkedIn Lives. You're going to want to avoid, things that are gated, product content, maybe some very technical industry research. And then in terms of the types of influencers you want to partner with, those are going to be professional influencers, creators, maybe some internal experts. You're going to want to work with the people that basically have the audience size that you're looking for. If it's awareness, you want to drive as many people as possible to this thing you're creating. However, if you're focused a bit more on demand gen or lead gen, you're going to work with different influencer types, because let's say you don't want to drive 1,000 people who may or may not be qualified. You want to drive 40 people who are very qualified, right? And in order to get that, you're going to want to focus with more niche experts who have that really deep expertise, maybe customers that you work with already, prospects, internal experts. The funny thing about this is that the lead gen programs can oftentimes cost you less in terms of what you invest with the influencers, because you're not going after those really large names, but you're finding those people that really, really deep technical expertise that can help your target audience see themselves in the content. And these tend to be more gated things like webinars, white papers, original research, that sort of thing in terms of tactics. So there is a difference between what you execute, who you work with, and how you measure it. So as part of this, I also, because I know we've been talking a lot about a lot of this theoretically, so I wanted to share a few real life success stories from different programs that my team has worked on. Some of these are large enterprise organizations. Some of them are smaller tech firms that have never done this before. So I wanted to give you a range of how this could be applied practically across different types of organizations. So the first one is a company called Tipalti. They are a fintech company. I'd say that they're mid-size, based out of the Bay Area. Had their former CMO or VP of marketing had done influencer marketing previously at another company, but this was the first time that they'd executed anything. And we decided to go with a very integrated program. So what we started with was a large anchor asset. We engaged 8 influencers. So we had one person who was kind of serving as the kind of head of ceremonies. So we had him do a few different videos. He was fairly well known within finance, but I'd say in terms of his follower base, it was probably under 100,000 people. We also engaged a couple customers, some more kind of deep like industry experts, as well as someone from their organization. I should also mention that there's a lot of video and static content as a part of this, and we did not pay these influencers to participate in this. And what I mean by that is, we engaged them. They felt like there was mutual value in co-creating this thing together. The one thing that we did do for the person that acted as sort of the head of ceremonies, did a few videos for us, is we made a small donation to his children's school, just again, to show that we were investing in our collaboration. And in under a month, we drove 6.6 million impressions just from the influencer shares alone. And to give you a bit of context for that, so I am a CM World awards judge. I have been for probably like 9 or 10 years at this point. There are B2C companies who are not generating those sort of results and are spending way more money. So again, in under a month from people that we worked with organically, that was a great win early on in the program. From there, we engaged 4 other influencers, some of who had participated in this asset, some who have not, to do a flagship virtual event with the organization, and then looked at who the top rated speakers from that were. They happened to be the influencers that we'd engaged for this program. And then from there, we went a bit deeper into topically. And you'll notice it's the same gentleman in the bottom right of the middle and the top right on the far right. And we did a LinkedIn Live featuring him, a customer, and then that was moderated by an expert, Paco, within the organization, talking about music licensing rights within specific industries, right? So we went broad at first, talked about the future of finance, went a little bit deeper with the event, and then even deeper with the LinkedIn Live, and saw some really amazing results against their benchmark in terms of comments, shares, views, versus any other content they had created without influencers. Another one that we find quite a bit is around events, and events could be, engaging influencers to be speakers at events. It could be having them attend events as creators, and it could also be having them help drive registrations for events. This was a program that we executed that came to us probably, I'd say we began conversations about 60 days before their event. It was the first time this was the first iteration of this event as well. They had not hosted it before, and they didn't have very much money, to be frank. So what we did is we told them we had to get creative. We were short on time, we were short on money, which meant we had to find the right people that we could allow to be creative and share their own points of view and their thoughts on this. So we engaged 6 influencers around 15 different activations, which was on Instagram, Twitter, newsletters, podcast, again, all for B2B. And the thing that was really amazing about this is that we were 51% above our registration goal, not just the goal they had given us for the influencers to drive, but our total registration goal for the event. We had went 50% over that. So again, limited time, limited money, but really allowed the influencers to get creative with the content for the brand. And then the next one that we have is around supporting a product launch. And this was part of a rebrand that one of our customers was doing. There was a interactive asset where all of the influencers were turned into superheroes. My team did not create this specific asset, but we did work with a lot of the influencers, help recruit them around it. We ran all of the reporting around activation, and in under a week, there were almost 6 million impressions because people were excited to be a part of this, to share this content. From there, we were able to engage the influencers on a more ongoing basis, which created a year-over-year increase of share of voice against competitors of 110%. And then we also engaged them in the beta testing of the product and some of the things around the relaunch. We had a virtual event that the client hosted that included all of these different influencers and more, and sent them fun things to follow along with the event that were themed with it. And it created 17 brand advocates supporting this launch. Again, this is an example where we did not need to compensate these influencers because we had existing relationships with them and they knew it would be a good exposure opportunity. And then I have one more that I'm going to do a bit of a deeper dive into. This was a company, I think what they basically do is serve as a directory for different technology tools and different types of things. They have ratings for them. And it was not a super well-known brand. Their team had limited bandwidth, no experience running influencer marketing, but were interested in it. So through, discussing with them, we were able to uncover that they had a new industry report on the topic of AI that was primed for including influencers in it. So just to give you a sense of sort of what, and this was just a pilot program. So to give you a sense of how we approach this with a brand who'd not done this before. So the first thing that we did was released a blog post on 33 AI and marketing experts to follow in 2023. And again, this is not asking anything of the influencers. If anyone is not doing this, please do it because it drives so many views. It's a great way to engage with the influencers on social. And all it really is saying, here's this influencer, here's a brief bio on them, here's some of their content to follow. People love being on lists. It is something that, to be frank, feeds the ego. People feel honored to be a part of it. And it's really easy content to create for your brand. So after this blog post published, and again, this first post, we didn't engage the influencers to create anything, but it performed over other blog content that they had. Then we started engaging them on LinkedIn. So we posted the blog post on LinkedIn. We tagged all of the influencers in it. And if you'll notice in the center and then on the right, these are all of the influencers engaging with the content, resharing it. So we didn't ask them to do this, but it did give us a good signal of who we should start working with for the larger thing that we wanted to collaborate on. So again, we were at like 400% over the benchmark for comments. Shares were 67% above benchmark, and they had a fairly active LinkedIn presence as well. So again, it's something that's low lift, but can really boost engagement on social. Again, we also engaged on Twitter. They were not as active on Twitter, but why not repurpose, right? And we found that, again, our views were like almost 3,000 above our benchmark, likes, comments, shares, all far exceeding what was typical. So again, this was a very low lift thing that helped us capture an additional audience that we might not have if we didn't cross promote. And then finally, we did partner with 4 different influencers to collaborate on the report. This was an ungated piece of content on the client's website. In terms of the performance, the total number of users that were driven to their website for this was 2,000 over the benchmark, and total new users about 2,000 over the benchmark as well, right? And so this also wasn't a company that was just never creating content. They had an extensive content library, an extensive blog kind of resource center. So but we found that we were able to drive much more when partnering with influencers. So in terms of the kind of those overall results, influencers drove 79% of all users, and then there was almost a 45, well, just over a 4,500% increase in users to the website driven by influencers, right? And again, these were relationships that my team had, so we did not necessarily need to compensate these influencers, but there were additional compensation opportunities with this client once this initial kind of piece of content had been done. So we did this in about, I think, 3 months. It was, engaging a core group of influencers. It was fairly low lift and generated great results for the customer. So the last couple things I just wanted to leave you with is thinking about how can you overcome some of the common marketing hurdles that you're facing by integrating influencers? How can you find strategic alignment with influencer partners? So again, and who you partner with is oftentimes more important than what you partner on. So ensuring that you are working with the right people to drive business impact. How can you keep up with those content trends, right? So knowing where your customers are and what channels they're on is very important, but understanding within those channels what type of content they want to consume and how. When you are partnering with influencers, I strongly recommend finding ways to scale your investment. Otherwise, you'll end up investing a lot more money and maybe not getting the return than if you had started bundling things together, building more long-term relationships, understanding what it was that those influencers wanted out of the relationship. It can just make such a big difference. And then driving impact through measurement and optimization of your program. So I do have a few goodies here, I'd say. So if you are interested in the full report, I have a link and a QR code over here on the left. We also have an AI and ethics webinar coming up in August. So it's basically on AI and ethics in B2B influencer marketing specifically. I mean, the AI is kind of changing the game across marketing. What is going to be the impact on this industry? And it is featuring Theodora Lau and Chris Penn, who are both obviously experts on the topic of AI and happen to be B2B influencers as well. And again, if there's anything that any of you want to talk about further, feel free to email me, send me a message on LinkedIn. I always love to talk about these things. So that's all she wrote. And I can drop these links in the chat as well for everybody, if that's easier.
Thanks so much, Ashley. So just to follow up on those case studies, what is the role Onalytica plays? I'm guessing it's a combination of the strategy and some of your technology?
Yeah, so it really depends on the customer, absolutely. But we do offer, and I think we're the only B2B company that for B2B that offers SaaS and consultancy. So if customers come to us, they have a fully fleshed out influencer marketing team. They are just looking for software to help them identify, engage, measure success of influencers and the programs they work on. We have customers that come to us for that. And then we have customers that say, I want you to find those influencers for me. I want you to engage with them on the content. I want you to set up the tracking. I want you to create the reporting and manage payments and negotiation with them. So most of our customers tend to be a blend of the two because they want to do some things on their own and engage us to do others. But we can pretty much service sort of whatever people are looking for, wherever they are in their journey.
Excellent. And I saw in the chat, Todd had a question back on your case study on driving event registrations. He was asking, how did you get people to the event? I guess, how did they get them to register?
Yep. So this was a virtual event and in-person event. So it was a hybrid, and it was not a high cost event either. I'd say, as B2B marketers, we're usually looking at events that cost us $3,000-$4,000 to attend. This was much lower in terms of the amount, and it was a fairly well-known brand. So it was just a matter of identifying influencers that had the right audience and engaging them about it, right? Talking about what some of the fun takeaways might be. That the influencers themselves would be there creating content and would be meeting the individuals that were there as well, having conversations with them. People were excited to meet them. As part of our trade with the influencers, we did give them free tickets to attend the event. And since the event was located in New York City, we also really hyper-focused on influencers that were located there as well. So knowing that they had an audience there where the live event was.
Excellent. Other questions, feel free to drop a question in the chat or unmute yourself and ask a question. So Ashley, our group has had a lot of presentations about AI, and I think we're all wondering about AI in marketing. Where do you see AI playing a role going forward in influencer marketing?
I think it's actually probably going to put a lot more onus on the influencers themselves to prove that they are worth like certain levels of compensation. I think there's a lot more reporting that they're going to have to provide, a lot more proof that they are creating content, that audiences are engaging with the content. Yeah, I see that as being the biggest thing, is that they're not strictly using AI to get all of this money, and they aren't actually really creating on their own. I'm very excited to see what Theo and Chris have to say as well, because they're both very passionate about the topic. I'm sure they will have similar opinions to mine, and then some that differ wildly, which is why it will be a fun conversation. But yeah, I think that's probably going to be the biggest immediate impact.
Got it. So our friend Joe Polizzi earlier this year, he was talking about predictions. I think so at the beginning of the year, he predicted that in sometime soon an AI will run for president. So do you see AI, like AI generated influencers, being a thing?
I think people will try to make it a thing. I think it will probably see more success, at least initially, in B2C, because again, that is more product based. I mean, again, you could make a fake travel influencer right now and start amassing millions of followers. The difference in business to business versus business to consumer is that these are people that are known for being practitioners, that have a legacy and a history of the work they've done. So they don't tend to just like pop up out of nowhere the same way that B2C influencers do. And for anyone asking about what the difference is, so business to business is our customers sell to other large organizations. So a company like Google that is selling advertising to another organization versus B2C is direct to the consumer. So if you are booking a hotel, that is a B2C business, right? The hotel is selling you that room to go stay in. So I hope that gives kind of a, I don't know if someone wants to define it better. Also, I would be open to that.
Ashley, I have two questions.
Yeah.
So they're sort of like in different areas, but I'm really curious. So if we don't have an Onalytica and we're trying to homegrown and explore working with influencers, is there like a tool that you recommend in terms of like finding influencers? Like, you know, I felt like I could spend hours on Twitter trying to find people who might be interested in this and just struggled with that. I know Rand Fishkin might have something that is helpful, but I'd be very curious to know if there's tools that leap to mind for you.
Yes. And what is it? Spark Toro is Rand's,
Yeah.
right? So there's a few things you can do. So like I mentioned for Clutch, where we created that list of 33 AI and marketing experts, you can do Google searches because people are creating lists on these topics. With the right prompts, again, AI doesn't always have to be scary. With the right prompts, you can also utilize, you know, the premium, $20 a month version of Chat GPT to help you identify influencers. I think it's really important to get very specific in those prompts though, and then do your own research sort of after the fact to ensure that they are the right people. So that means like use something else to help you find the list, and then use Twitter, use LinkedIn, use your time there to really dig into their profiles, see what content they're creating. It's going to be tougher not having a tool like ours to see sort of who their audience is, what their audience cares about. You won't get those audience demographics, but you will be able to get an idea of whether the content they're creating aligns with the brand's point of view.
Awesome. No, that makes a ton of sense. My second question is, so in my previous role, I feel like we were kind of trying to target like key opinion leaders, like maybe clinicians or people who are not professional influencers, maybe cultivating customers for speaking. But there were kind of these people in the middle that were kind of like, no, they didn't have their own side hustle where they spoke, but they were, I don't know, but they were very active, maybe in certain social media. And so you made a distinction between professional influencers and or non-professional
Yeah.
influencers. And so I'm wondering if it sounds like it's probably a very important distinction, and working with the two camps is probably very different. And so I'm just curious, like, if we were to stumble into something where we were like thinking about working with non-professional influencers, would you like, would you say avoid, or how would you think about some of this if we're just starting to explore and figure this out?
So I'm going to see if Zoom will let me. I just opened up another presentation from a previous event. It will not let me copy paste it. If you email me though, I will absolutely give you a framework for the different influencer types. So there's typically 5 different influencer types we look at, and the ones that you described, those KOLs, could likely be industry practitioners or even up and comers who, again, aren't in that professional influencer realm, but they are active, they are creating content. So again, I have this kind of chart that talks about, in terms of each of these different types, kind of the scale of their expertise, their audience size, how often people engage with them, their relevance for topics, and then why you might work with them. So I'm more than happy to share that with you and anyone else who's interested in that. And there's another thing you might, so again, internal experts and prospects are part of that, right? So they may not have the audience size, but if you can include your SMEs and execs as a part of this, it's going to build their credibility because they're alongside other credible people, right? And the other thing, I had a few customers when I was working at a PR agency that were in drug development testing and medical device testing. And so we worked with a lot of KOLs who were deeply, deeply technical, some like the most brilliant people in their field, but we're not content creators, right? So you're going to have to, in order to get the best out of those people and get the expertise, sometimes you're just going to have to approach it differently. It's not reaching out and saying, can you answer these 5 questions or can you do this video? Because they're not going to feel comfortable doing that. What you need to do is, interview them, ask questions, gain clarification. It is a bit more difficult sometimes, but there are ways to get good content out of them.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
And Ashley, for those who might be wondering, can you tell us what SME and KOL stand for?
Oh, yes. So KOL is a key opinion leader within certain industries, and I found mostly within scientific and healthcare. You're going to find that influencers are called KOLs instead of influencers. Industry expert. It's kind of, those 3 are all kind of the same thing. As we talk about SMEs, that's subject matter experts. So people within your organization, let's say it's a data engineer or someone who is really, deep in their field within your company, that has a lot of expertise, but might not be someone out there creating a bunch of social content or video. And then the other area we play is supporting those subject matter experts as well as executives within organizations. So helping them build their thought leadership on social platforms and, helping them get on stage to speak at events and other things like that. Good question.
Excellent.
Sorry, I used so many acronyms in this. I didn't even realize it because I've been saying them all for so long.
No worries. Let's see. We have time for one more question. Does anyone have a question? Okay, Lynn, you can follow up privately. That's fine.
But I just need where to write it to Ashley Zeckman or to you?
I think that's probably a question for Dennis.
Okay. So
I can follow up with you afterwards. All right, I guess that's all the time we have. Ashley, thanks so much for joining us today. That was a great presentation. I would encourage everyone to get a copy of the report. Oh, okay.
Excellent.
And
thank you all.
We'll see you soon. We'll see you next time.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining.
Bye.